And Saldi. It's set up here. Zaza! The most incredible scenes. Simone Zaza wins it at the end. And he is mobbed by everyone from the Torino bench.
The Calcio Guys is a weekly podcast by Adriano Donardo, Gianni Delacoli, and myself, Nicholas Di Giovanni. We want to bring Calcio back to its roots in our communities and share stories from around the world about why we're passionate about the beautiful game. You can listen to us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts, including Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Mixcloud. Give us your opinion on social media at The Calcio Guys on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The intro song is Fireworks by Jazar. It's Azzurri time, baby. Not yet, though. Tomorrow. Or Thursday. Well, tomorrow with the Azzurrini, if you want to look at it that way. With Adriano Donardo, I'm Nicholas Di Giovanni. Gianni's out this week. We're going to have Daniel Lucci join us later to talk about the Azzurri. But we did have a Serie A match day 28, I believe. I mean, as a Juventus fan, it's time for me to get excited about the Azzurri because I mean, it's not over till the fat lady sings, but when you lose 1-0 to Benevento, you've officially become Milan meme level. I hope you could agree with me there, Adriano.
Hey, at least we stole a point, I guess, in that one. After the Brignoli header, we still stole a point, so we're a bit step above, but yes, it's pretty embarrassing.
You stole a point. You got scored on by a goalie. You know, there's trade-offs, right? There's trade-offs.
I guess it equals out. Yeah.
I think there was actually a game in Spain this week, and I forget who it was, but a goalie actually scored the winning. I forget if it was winning goal or tying goal at the end.
Bono. I saw that. I don't remember the team off the top of my head, but I did see that. Somebody's gonna have to correct us correct us, in the comments when they rewatch this. But yeah, I don't remember, but. What a play and what a moment for that goalkeeper.
Well, so it's just me and you, Adriano. So we'll talk about this Serie A match day just a bit. We'll do our cards like normal, but we'll have Daniel on soon to talk about the Azzurri. As I mentioned, the U21 Euros are also the round robin is this week. While the senior team has the Italy qualifier, so it's a nice little break. You know, I always like the March international break just because it's it's been a long time since we've seen Italy play. You know, when like in the fall there's September, October, November. By the time November rolls around, you know it's been too many breaks. You know, there's injuries. You know, some of these breaks are causing injuries to guys in the Serie A. You know, so like by that point, it's too much. You know, by March, it's nice. Weather's nice. You're going to look forward to the summer tournament if there is one in that year. So, so you know, I'm excited. We'll talk about that with Daniel. We don't have Gianni on, but we had the Derby del Giannine this weekend.
We sure did.
Dries Mertens show. Let's call it that. The Dries Mertens show for Napoli against Roma.
Yeah, Mertens magic. I mean, I think it's just so amazing. We've spoken time and time again with Mertens. He's I remember if it was just the three of us and Johnny was mentioning it, or when we had our gracious guest Rafa Rispo. I remember he has mentioned it time and time again on our show and on his show. The same. Mertens. There's just something about him. He's been with this club. He's one of them. He basically is Napolitan. He shows Belgium as his nationality, but deep down he is Napolitan. With him embodying everything it is to play for Napoli. Obviously 2 big goals, getting the number 99 and 100 in Serie A, and I believe it was 132, 133 in all time for Napoli as well. So that just continues to push his numbers atop Napoli's all-time list. And he's been a player now that we've spoken these past weeks. He's been injured, hasn't been himself. He's maybe not still at 100%. Still did see Osimhen come in there, but I think it was 2 great goals, and it was just merited. And there's again not enough good things to say about Mertens. I think Napoli just, besides Mertens doing their show, Napoli just dominated and stole the show in this matchup. Anyways, I mean, this is a derby match. We like to joke on the show de la Giannine for our boy Gianni, but I think this year specifically Napoli had Roma's number, and then a lot of teams have had Roma's number, but this year Napoli definitely can say that, winning both derbies comfortably, if I'm not mistaken. The first time it was 4-0,
4-0, so 6-0 total. That's bragging rights in a derby. First of all, against any team, a direct competitor that you're fighting with in the standings, to lose 6-0 in aggregate is unacceptable. But against a derby team, that's embarrassing. Luckily for Roma, there's no fans in the stands to see it, right? So
but there's all the fans at home. There's all the fans at home that are burning, that are burning inside. So for Roma's end, it was tough. I think Napoli took care of business. In the first half, basically they coasted throughout the second half. And really got the job done. And you know what? It's a credit to, I think, Gattuso too. I know he gets a lot of flack. We don't know if he's going to be behind the bench at the touchline. Come next season, there's reports yes, reports no. But I think this has something to do with Gattuso too. Him being able to turn the page from an ugly period that Napoli had just a few weeks ago. And stringing on a couple of wins now. Obviously last week against Milan as well. So it's Napoli. They just have to be like this all the time. To be consistent. Both these teams really. But I mean, if Napoli wants to really push for Champions League, which I think they're not out of yet. So might as well continue on pushing hard. And again, the wins like this, wins like the last week. These are those staple wins that. Hopefully, if they can string enough together, they can make it all the way.
Kessie now for Milan, and the shot is in. Oh, they found an angle. They found a goal. Do not write them off just yet.
You're Milan. Did you check your heart rate during that match?
Holy crap, man! One minute I was cheering, the other moment I was slamming things. It was one of those. Sundays afternoons at the Denaro residence for sure.
But considering considering everything that Milan's gone through these past few weeks, especially, I think it easily could have been one of those games where you easily thought loss is coming, this and that, and. Maybe I say this with Lazio with their comeback wins. Maybe it could kind of, turn around Milan season. I don't know if they'll catch up to Inter, but at least, give them that push that they need at the end of the season to not fall out of the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always tough to, it's easy to get into these slumps. It's so hard to get out of them, right? It's so hard to stop the sliding. We've seen it time and time again with many teams in Serie A or just in Calcio in general. It's and we're talking about Azzurri today. It's same thing with the national team level, right? We saw the down, now we're trying to get back up, right? So Milan, like you mentioned, obviously a bit of a tough stretch as of late. Going dating back to even when they got bounced from Europa League, which again I think. Could have fell either way in that matchup. I think Milan could have easily have advanced as well if it was another day. But I mean, ever since then, and now obviously turning the page after the loss to Napoli, playing Fiorentina, which we like to go up and down about Fiorentina. More news today about Fiorentina, which again is crazy, but. They've been playing decent these past couple of weeks, Fiorentina. They've gotten some results. Their main man Vlahovic has been scoring, and they've looked good. And I'm just so happy that, I mean, not all their pieces were back 100%, but we did get some pieces back. Obviously, Ibra was up there as well. We saw Benacer, again, not 100%, but getting in there. And you know what? Ibra scoring first, setting the tone, I think was important. It's one of those games where I like that, again, this team shows no real fear. How do I say it? They're gonna go for it. They're able to fight. Again, we mentioned it time and time again. A couple years back, this game would have been one of those games you chalk up as a loss. You put your head in hands and you go on to next Sunday. But this game was one of those games where they were able to fight and they were able to come back. Maybe some of the goal. Well, the first goal off the free kick. I mean, there's nothing you can do in that one. Pulgar, what a hit, and he put it top corner. And the Ribéry goal, he was kind of left more or less alone, if I remember correctly, on his goal as well, right? So it's a little mental mistakes like that could have cost the Milan. It didn't in this case. They got the 3 points with the 3-2. Listen, Inter didn't play this week, so they're 6 points back. Like you mentioned with Juve, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. There's still about 9-10 games left to play. We'll see how it ends out. We'll see when these rescheduled games, how those pan out, because those are the big clinchers now. With Napoli, with Lazio, with Juve, now Inter. These are the big games to be played, and we'll take it from there. But again, Milan, from the get-go, top 4 was the objective. We happened to be in first place for 22 straight weeks. Now it's, again, a bit of a slide, but if we can hang on to the top 4, I think a lot of Milan fans will be happy.
With these rescheduled games, Serie A has to count their lucky stars that all the teams that need a rescheduled game are out of Europe. So they could pretty much, they have freedom to do it whenever at this point. If the problem now is if Roma gets a rescheduled game and they advance in Europa League, that's a different story. But, Juve Napoli, they're going to play it April 7th.
If we don't even know these days.
Again.
We don't even know these days. It's like you can willy-nilly pick when you want to reschedule. And other teams, they've been dealt with COVID, nothing. It's crazy. But again,
solo in
I don't want to go get
heated on
that.
But yeah, they're April 7th. That's a Champions League day. If either team was playing in Europe that week, they wouldn't have had that date. So luckily for the Serie A, they got at least they have open days now. Let's do our cards, because I do have a topic to cover with my cards. Instead of repeating myself, let's do our cards now, and I'll start with my red card. I mean, it's a pretty easy one.
Go for it.
I'm gonna have to go. I don't know if I'm gonna give it to just our tour or the entire Juventus team. You know what? I'll give it to the entire Juventus team, because it is a team sport. You don't want to blame one player, but our tour with that pass. I don't know who he was trying to go for with that pass. I think it was Danilo. Any sport you play with a goalie, first thing you're taught, you don't pass across the net. Whether you play hockey or soccer or water polo, you don't pass across the net. It's as simple as that. And the moment I saw Artur release that pass, I was like, shit, what the hell's he doing? And then Gajic gets it and scores. It's funny because stupid back passes, cost Juventus in the Champions League and possibly costing them in the Serie A. Obviously the entire game against Benevento was frustrating. A lot of missed chances. A lot of players should have scored a lot of goals. Morata, Ronaldo, Danilo should have scored. Very frustrating. Obviously a lot of people are going to be talking about that key is a penalty. Yeah, sure, it should have been a penalty, but to be honest, I'm happy we didn't get it, because we shouldn't be relying on a penalty to tie Benevento. Yeah. Maybe it's a good thing we didn't get it, because it's more of a slap in the face that you lose, because then it's a draw. Yeah, okay, it would have been frustrating too, but all good things must come to an end, right? And this is probably the year Juventus cycle comes to an end. It's just frustrating to see. Obviously, you don't, you never know when it's going to come to an end. I mean, now we're starting to see it. But if you lose the Scudetto with no fans in the stands, do you really lose the Scudetto? That's my question of the week.
In the record books, it's gone. In the record books, it's gone. So I would say yes.
But still, it's going to be a red card for me for the entire Juventus team.
Going to go to the pocket and get out the red. It's a red card.
You, Adrian?
Yeah, so I mean, we just spoke about it before when we were talking about the Derby della Giannina, as we like to call it. Another kind of minor card, if you want to say, was Crotone, giving up their lead to Bologna.
Oh boy, yeah.
That for me was, a smaller card if I could, just because, listen, I mean, the way Crotone's season has gone or is going hasn't been anything to really write home about. Again, newly promoted, kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, you have to be better than that. I mean, credit to Bologna, for climbing back into that game. Mihalovic's men have shown that in the past, so credit to them. But it's not kind of where you want to be at this part of the season, this final stretch where you're really trying to save yourself. It really doesn't look likely. But even just for that morale and just for that confidence, even if you are going to be going down to Serie B, I think it's games like that where you have to capitalize on it and really claim all 3 points. But to kind of push away from that to my, I don't even know, I don't want to give it a red card because it seems like it's more than one time we said this, but I'm going to go Roma. Just not being able to get the job done. We mentioned it before, 6-0, 6-0 in 2 derbies this year. Granted, the first one, that was in the stars. Maradona was looking down on that game. That 4-0 was in the hands of God, really. In that matchup, there was no way it seemed that Roma was even going to scratch the surface in that game. So, you kind of want to give a benefit of the doubt, but still, you have to play the game on the pitch. But this weekend, again, in the derby, I don't know, it just wasn't there for Roma. It's frustrating. As a Roma fan, is Fonseca in, is Fonseca out? What's going to be the future with this Roma team? It's tough. So I think for me this week, yellow card for Roma. I don't know if I probably would think Johnny would agree with me, or half of Johnny would agree with me on this week.
The Delhi part.
But exactly. The Delhi part. How was that post? I forget. Was Delhi Colli was.
Yes.
Was in the Roma jersey. Delhi was in the Napoli. So Colli is going to be a little bit pissed off this week, or probably agree with me on this yellow card. But again, I think Roma really have to figure out where they're going in the future, or just in the now and in the future, because right now it seems they can't get consistent. They can do well in Europe. It's amazing. They've done well in Europe. Our only Italian team still left in Europe, so I mean we commend them for that. But if you want to make a European push for next season, that's talking either Europa League or Champions League, you need better results than this weekend or in the past we've seen. So for me this week, yellow card for Roma.
This is definitely going to be another yellow.
As for MVPs, I'm going to go to a name not many people probably have heard of, Jeroen Zoet, from the goalkeeper from Spezia. He had a pretty big game against Cagliari this weekend. 2-1 win for Spezia. Important win. Spezia, they're a team, they haven't been playing well as they did, at the beginning of the season. I still don't think they're going to get relegated, based on, how the teams below them are playing. So, that they just need, maybe a couple more wins to pretty much secure that spot. And this was one of those games, right? A team directly below them in the standings, heading into the game, they had a 4-point difference. So if Cagliari won, it could have been down to 1 point, and instead Spezia wins. It's 7 points clear of safety for Spezia. So that's big news. And Zoet made 5 saves in the game. There were 6 shots on target, made 5 saves. I know there was a goal at the end that was scored by Joao Pedro. That was called back in the record books. Nobody knows that, so it's fine. Yeah. Big game by Zoet. Adri?
Yeah, so I mean, I had a couple names to mention this week, and if we're gonna go back, I mean, since the Sassuolo didn't play this week, if we can go back just a bit to that replay game of what I believe it was match day 24, if I'm not mistaken, between Sassuolo Torino. Again, somebody can correct us if we're wrong, but Zaza in that game, I'm gonna have to give him a shout. Getting what a thriller winner at the end there. It's not. I mean, Zaza is one of those players in years past that one year he's electric, the other year he's fate de gazza, can't do nothing, and then he finally comes back to relevance. And let's not talk about Twinkle told Zaza that penalty because some screen here is going to be broken. So Zaza, good for him this week or that makeup game, because I wanted to still bring that up. Obviously Mertens, we mentioned him before. For his 2 goals, that was huge, as we mentioned earlier. But I think the guy I'm really gonna, I guess, give it to is going to be Scamacca for Genoa in their win against Parma, the 2-1. It's funny. We spoke about him a little bit. I remember when we had our boy Fabrizio on, when we spoke about Genoa. Talking about he's kind of dipped off a bit. He was all over the score sheets earlier on in the season. He kind of had a bit of a dip in form. Maybe wasn't playing as much. Now that Ballardini has came back, but this game he took it away. We mentioned the Mertens show. This was the Scamacca show. In this matchup, getting the 2 goals. And again, this is a player that just his stature, his able to finish, in front of goal, I think can be pretty lethal for not only for Genoa or whatever team he ends up playing for in Serie A, but even maybe the national team level as well into the future. Now that we are speaking about Azzurri this week, I think he's another name to obviously look out for, hopefully in the future. Again, he has to keep these types of performances up. These experiences need to be there. And again, if he can do it in Serie A, hopefully maybe he gets a national team call down the line too. So for this week, for his 2 goals for Genoa in the win against Parma, I'm going to give it to Scamacca MVP.
I'm surprised you didn't give it to Mertens. Let's give it for Gianni. Let's give it to Dries Mertens for Gianni.
Well, listen, yeah, exactly. I was going to say we spoke about Gianni. We spoke about Mertens so well before. But let's bring it together. We can do that for Mertens. I think he deserves it.
I'm sure he'll agree with us here.
Up steps Dries Mertens. Oh! It's a special goal to give Napoli the lead. Dries Mertens, in poor goal-scoring form, finds that moment of quality at the perfect time. Signe with that diagonal for Politano, and Dries Mertens with his second. Napoli in control at the Stadio Olimpico.
There were a lot of comebacks this weekend in the Serie A, including last week. You talked about Torino coming back against Sassuolo, real shock that one. Bologna against Crotone, and I think Genoa was down 1-0 to Parma. They came back to win. I mean, that's more of a common comeback.
They were. You're right. Pelé, it's true. Graziano Pelé scored. Was it the bike? Was it?
Yeah.
How can we forget? Yes, it was.
So in this podcast, we've talked about Pelé and Zaza, and we're going to talk about the Azzurri coming up with Daniel Lucci.
Marcatore di Cannavaro, palla tagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo, ancora Pirlo di tecco, tiro,
Absolute chills every time I hear that.
Breathing.
Every time I hear that. Grosso goal in 2006. Gives me chills.
Such good memories.
Makes me excited for not only the upcoming international break, Italy World Cup qualifiers trying to get back to the World Cup, but also Euros coming up in just under 3 months. And joining us now from World Football Index, Daniel Lucci. Daniel, how's it going?
Good, gentlemen. Thanks for having me again, having me back. I'm excited for upcoming qualifiers, and hopefully Italy can keep it going in the right direction.
Beautiful.
For sure. And, Daniel, we normally have you on to talk about Juve. And, the first time we had you on, we asked you, how did you become a Juve fan? But this time, we're going to talk about Italy. So we're going to ask you, we all know how you became an Italy fan. It's pretty simple. We're all Italian, right? But what's your favorite moment as an Italy fan? And I know you're going to say 2006 World Cup, but answer me favorite moment from that World Cup.
Oh, okay. For sure, it's got to be the game against Germany. First of all, that Grosso goal, the curler off the corner, incredible. But even like when I saw Del Piero chip that second one in, just unbelievable. Like the goal itself, the build up to it, Cannavaro just beasting everyone from the back. Over to Gilardino with a nice little layoff. Grazie Gilardino. Didn't do much after that, but we'll take it. And one of my favorite icons, Del Piero, buries a beauty, and then you see the little German kid, the little girl in the stands crying. Good thing we were on the better side of that one, right? But definitely that was a great game.
It's funny, right? Because this was the semifinal, and obviously winning the final was more important, but just the way that they won that semifinal there's always a debate. Which moment did you prefer, the semifinal or the final? Personally, I can't answer that because it's like the semifinal, great finish, amazing goals. Mm-hmm. The finals, we won the tournament, I think for me personally, both are just amazing to look back on.
No doubt. It's crazy because so many people will even say that the semifinal was better than the final, which I can't even argue. Again, like Nick said, I can't argue against that. Because we don't get out of that semifinal, there is no final. So, you know what I mean? That's why we put so much emphasis on that game against Germany, the Grosso goal, the Del Piero goal that you mentioned, Daniel. It's those are moments that, again, best days of our lives we'll never forget. And like I said, without that game, there won't be any penalty wins against France, right, to lift the trophy. So I think both are equally, amazing. And cherished, but I think, again, if you sway me towards the semifinal rather than the final, I wouldn't have anything to argue with. So,
so before we get into talking about the Azzurri with the World Cup qualifiers, we do have the Azzurrini, the U21 team. They're playing in the Euro U21 2021. Championship. Group stage is during this international break. They have games against they play tomorrow against Czech Republic, so that's Wednesday, and then Saturday against Spain, and then Tuesday against Slovenia. This is a tournament we always see a lot of future national team players come out of it. Someone make their name. Think about 2013 with Insigne, the way he made his name at that tournament. I remember in 2017, your boy Bernardeschi had a big tournament as well. But think about this tournament, how it's unconventional this year. It's in March instead of being in June. Do you think there's a lot of emphasis on winning the whole thing, or is it more, just getting that experience for these young guys, just playing as a unit and representing their country in a big tournament?
For sure. You always want to go into a tournament, trying to win it and going as deep as you can. And we know they got some decent talent on that U21 team. Pinamonte, Rovella, who the list goes on. But you try to win every tournament you can, and it's good experience, like you said. To hopefully some of them or majority of them can make the jump to the senior team one day, like we've seen with Bastone's already made it. Getting calls up for the senior team. Barella, Insigne, Bellotti. The list goes on. Chiesa. So you get some experience there. You try to go deep. You play with a certain amount of players, and hopefully you guys can develop together and make the jump one day, and then make the senior team even better, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. And I think not only that, I think Daniel, I know with just even kind of bringing it back towards the Serie A, when we speak about our young Italian talent, I find, and you see this all over on social media, anybody that covers Calcio or Serie A specifically, in Italy, with our youngsters, it's like they're not really getting the experiences from the get-go in Serie A. You're a young player. You play for Juve. You play for Milan. You might not get those experiences right away. So tournaments like this at the international level, me personally, and I always like to say this because I think it's important, is that they get these experiences, because when they do make that jump from a Fiorentina to a Juve, we'll use Chiesa as that example. He's ready. He's able to perform on a higher caliber team. Again, no offense to any other team, but you're making that step above, and it all starts in your own backyard, right? It all starts with these types of tournaments. The youth levels that we need to continue to push. And again, I think experiences like this in a tournament like this, representing your country, which is every kid's dream growing up when you want to play calcio, right? I think it's only more beneficial. You speak about another name like Rovella. He's another bright name. Tonali.
Yeah.
For Milan fans, they want to see him, being able to really progress. So I think that's just another key point to add on to what you had mentioned in terms of experiences and just being able to get these players, ready for when they make any big jump, either internationally or for their clubs. So I definitely agree with you there. So Nick, where do you want to go next? Where should we go?
I guess we'll go for the national team. We got the World Cup qualifiers, first time since 2017, since that hard break against Sweden.
Don't remind me.
All that.
Exactly.
Doesn't exist.
It's crazy because, obviously because of, the circumstances, they still haven't played it in a major tournament since then. It's just been Euro qualifiers, Nations League, and then back to World Cup qualifiers. You're right. It's definitely a weird situation. But Northern Ireland on Thursday, Bulgaria away to Bulgaria on Sunday, and away to Lithuania on Wednesday, and then the other teams in their group are Switzerland. That's the one team in the group that they're not playing this match day. But I think for Italy, no doubt about it, they have to be aiming for top in the group, qualify automatically for the World Cup. What do you expect to see out of them? For these 3 games.
Yeah, for sure. I think you definitely should win this group, and you got to show up to these games, even though it's Ireland and Bulgaria. You got to show them that you want to be a dominant team and you want to get back to top of your international play. Like in 2017, things didn't go so well. We got a long way to go to get back to where we once were. I want to see, I know Mancini selected a bit of an experimental squad for these upcoming matches with some names we probably weren't expecting. But, you still got big names there. You still got most of the big guys. I don't believe the Inter players are going to be joining because of their COVID situation. So, there's a couple spots available for some players to step up and maybe get a shot on, coming up for the Euro team. But, you got the talent. These are teams you have to beat regardless. If you want to make the World Cup, you got these are games you got to win, and you got to go out there and show everyone that you mean business. I don't expect, I shouldn't say this, but, I don't expect anything but a win. Hopefully that doesn't come and bite us. But, go for it. Go for the kill, right? That's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm pretty sure Nick can agree, and I'm pretty sure if Johnny was here, he would agree as well. I mean, I think we have to, we've been on such a good, stretch with, qualifying for Euros and just being able to be so dominant. Mancini really coming in and, changing the culture that was once at a dark time. Again, I don't want to mention where we were in 2017, 2018, because I'm already going to punch something, but you know what I mean? But again, I think it's continuing on to build from what we saw, to lead up to now this Euro coming up. Mm-hmm. I think they need to go in there and continue on that page. And I agree with Lucci. I think the wins are crucial. I mean, I don't want to disrespect the opponent, but if we want to be the Italy of old, with kind of a modern twist, these are games that you go in there and you need to win, right? And you need to show a statement from the get-go. And I think we can do that. I mean, only time will tell, but We'll definitely see. But what we always like to, talking about, you mentioned about names, right? And, we always like to see who got called up, who didn't get called up, why is there 4 goalkeepers? That's something that always aggravates me. I don't never understand. But we got a question from, now I'm going to go back. I believe it was our boy, Joe Fischetti, your boy out there in Toronto. He mentioned, and this was something that I saw on Twitter too, mainly with the Napoli fans, but he asked, why did Mancini make the wrong decision to bring Bernardeschi instead of Politano? Now, to be fair, we're asking a guy that is in love with Bernardeschi, right? So maybe his answer might be a bit skewed, Joe, if you're listening. But to be fair, Politano has shown a lot. I was surprised with that, since we did see some names that we might not have, really anticipated. We get the names of Grifo, and we're like kind of maybe sometimes scratching our head. But again, Mancini made his choice. He left out Politano for now, and he went with Bernardeschi. What do you make of that question? Was that a wrong decision on if you're maybe staying neutral, Lucci? And what do you have to say?
Fuck. Have you guys seen Politano's back tattoo? That alone should get him excluded from the team. That thing's awful. He's got a giant lion all over his back, man.
If we're gonna talk about tattoos, Immobile is gonna be far away from the national team.
Oh, that's a bad one too. Yeah,
new sleeve, the family sleeve.
Score anyway, so what's the point of bringing him along? But no. All jokes aside, I think there's definitely a case for Politano to be there. And yes, I have supported Bernardeschi, through the good and the bad, but. When he, and I'm sure Nick can agree to this, that when he plays for the Azzurri, he just looks like a completely different player. Like, he looks like he has confidence. He's playing with passion. Maybe it's the jersey. Maybe he just loves seeing, the green, white, and red on his chest. It's just, he looks like old Bernardeschi. And that along with just being able to be a versatile player. To play the left wing, to play the right wing. He can play in a bit deeper. Depends. Politano has had a good season. Don't get me wrong, but we haven't really been able to see what he's done for the Azzurri. He hasn't, and he's not as versatile. He likes to stick on the right wing and kind of cut in and do his thing on that. But from what I've seen at Napoli, he doesn't play the left wing, or he doesn't like playing the left wing. So, we're very deep at right wing. We know that already. So. I'm sure if he was able to play left wing, he probably would have gotten a call. Would have been a better chance of that, compared to, not that I'm saying I'm an expert, when it comes to Grifo and El Shaarawy, but those are guys that are probably wouldn't make my squad. Maybe they're just there to see what they can do with the big guys. But yeah, Politano, has had a good year, but I understand why Mancini would call Bernardeschi. He hasn't let us down when it comes to the Azzurri. He's been one of the better performers over the past couple of years.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, he definitely does look like a different player, and I think we saw that. I forget which game it was in the Nations League. I think it was the game against Poland when it was at the Mapei Stadium. It's as if he turned back the clock to his Fiorentina days. It's definitely a weird effect, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he plays that much in a different position, I guess, with the Azzurri. It's all in the head. It's all in the head.
The mentality, exactly. I was just about to say the mentality. It's what it boils down to.
He's just the opposite of Immobile and Belotti, really, for that matter. They have great club careers, but they can't do it on the big stage. Maybe, Bernardeschi is just the opposite. But hey, we need those types of players if we plan on going deep, right? You need someone to step up. So
yeah, well said.
Hopefully someone can.
In terms of strikers. I think, everybody would agree that, that's probably the biggest, question mark or area of concern for the Azzurri. I've said it before, it's when or if Italy gets eliminated from the tournament, it's going to be because of lack of goal scoring. It's not going to be because of bad defense. It's going to be because they can't score goals.
Yep.
Who would you put as the starting striker? And, who do you think could really, live up to that role of just being that guy who's going to score goals?
See, for me, and I know I've gotten a lot of slack over this one, but I preferred Belotti over Immobile in this particular system Mancini is playing. As we've seen with Immobile, he seems to be just a striker that needs someone beside him, in the front too. With like we've seen with Lazio with him, having Correa or Caicedo or whoever with him. But Immobile is just, he's a more dominant aerial threat. He can hold up the ball better. He's a little more physical, bigger, can spread the play to the wings, which is certainly beneficial to the way it seems that Mancini wants to play. But I would expect if, one of them doesn't perform, you'll have someone else. And I could see Moise Kean getting a good shot at getting some minutes here, either probably more central or on the right wing, but I don't see him really replacing Chiesa unless he has a terrible performance tournament. But I can see Kean, kindly, showing up to the big stage and showing what he can really do. But, hopefully one of the three or somebody else can step up and score some goals. Like you said, Nick, that's going to be, we have the talent, but it might be a little tough to get goals from our center forwards.
Yeah, I think, Kean can, I think he's a player I'm most, curious and excited about, just because he's playing out of Italy. We don't watch him every week, but he's been doing a lot of good with PSG. He's basically put Icardi back on the bench. He's scoring, he's scoring at a good rate. And I think with him, it's good to have kind of almost like that league diversity. If you're going to get everyone from the Serie A, you're just going to get the one style of play. When you start to diversify, I know, their diversification is three guys from PSG, Verratti, Florenzi, and Ken. So, it gives something different. It does give something
And that
different.
could be a good thing, too, when it comes to, chemistry, right? They're used to playing with each other.
Exactly. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah, I think even just to bounce off on Keane and Lucci mentioned it before about being flexible, that being able to play multiple positions. Keane can do that, right? We've seen him in the central role. We've seen him out on the wings. You put him, I believe me personally, you put him anywhere on the front three, and he's able to perform. He brings that experience that he had from Serie A when he was with Juve. He had a bit of a stint in England, right, with Everton. Yeah. He got now his experience in PSG, in France with PSG. So, and he's still very young, right? I think he just brings, maybe he's that X factor that will have this tournament. For our show, we like to say Chucho Caputo should get a nod in there too, which, again, I don't see why not, personally. Maybe the only thing that will stop that from happening will be the amount of actual spots being able to take players, right? We can only bring so many, so not everybody can join, right? So, but again, I think if there's any X factors, those two names for me personally, as of right now, Keane and Chicho Caputo, those would be the names where I think that just put them in and see what they can do, and I think they can be like a curveball, right? And again, Keane, like Nick said, I'm curious to see if he does get called up and if he's one of Mancini's men for the attack. I want to see what he's going to be able to bring, because he can take on the man, he can score, right? He's got that pace, just like Chiesa's been showing this season too, right? So I think that might be a good 1-2 punch if they are to be up there come this summer. But so we got obviously more social media questions for you, Lucci, and just to talk about in general. One of them being maybe a small jab. I would assume. I don't know. We mentioned Bernardeschi before. We had our gracious guest last week, Monica, from the Rejuvenation. Was that how it's pronounced?
Rejuvenation.
That sounds right.
Rejuvenation, right? Podcast. Sorry for that. But and she asked, what side of the bench is Bernardeschi suited for? So I don't know. Lucci, if you have an answer for that. Maybe he's left bench, right bench. I don't know.
I don't think it matters. He can. You never know what he can do off the bench. He's a role player. We know that. He's not going to be out there and dominate and take on 11 guys, but. He can still offer something. We've seen with the Azzurri, like we mentioned before, he's been able to offer something different, and play well. And, when it comes to Monica, she can talk all she wants, but, when she's supporting Ramsey, who's only fit for 50% of the year, it doesn't really account for much.
More fire this week.
We'll leave it at that.
Holy fuck!
This podcast has become a hosting service between Daniel and Monica to fight each other. Last week it was Monica coming out with the jabs to Daniel. This week it's the opposite. I think one day we're gonna have you both on and just scrap it out. In a friendly way, of course. That's what we do.
Put up a hotline like 1-800 the Calcio guys or whatever, and you call in and you rant. And then you hang up, and then the next person jumps on. They rant, and then we butt heads. We're gonna have to do something. I don't know.
We got another question from the Milan guys, not a subset of the Calcio guys, by the way.
Shout out to them, though. Good guys out there.
Milan guys. This one, maybe we got we have like a lot of questions that kind of like revolve around this. Yeah. It kind of like intertwine. Yeah, both Pizza Calcio. We'll ask the Pizza. The Pizza Calcio question has two parts, so we'll ask one of the parts after. But the Milan guys asked best Azzurri lineup for June.
Ooh, yeah. So Lucci, what are you thinking about that?
Okay, so obviously Donnarumma gets the nod.
Yeah.
See, for me, before Calabria got hurt, he probably would have been my starting right back. Just because, as much as I love Florenzi, he's not a natural right back. Just like we say, he struggles defensively, but for the case being, I'll say Florenzi.
Sure.
This is where things get a little tricky because I know Bonucci's been going downhill, but I think he needs to play. He's the only ball playing center back that you really have, and really the only right-footed one too to boot. So for those reasons, he gets the nod there, and I'd honestly probably start Bastoni beside him. I know he's still young, but he's had a great couple of years with Inter and under Conte. I just, as much as I love Chiellini, I just don't know if he's 100% fit to be there. Maybe he'll go on the trip and make a rare appearance here and there, but I think you got to go with the hot hand, the young kid who's playing with lots of confidence right now, and. On the left, I'd probably go Emerson Palmieri. I know he doesn't play often with Chelsea, but when he plays he's another one. When he plays with the Azzurri, he looks like he fits. He seems to pick up another notch, like with Bernardeschi. The midfield three for me, it'd be Locatelli, Verratti, and Barella. I would bring Jorginho would be my piece off the bench if you need something a little different later on in the game to kill it, hold possession, so on. And the front three, Chiesa on the right. Again, I go Belotti in the middle and Insigne in the left. And then, see if someone doesn't have a good tournament, you got options off the bench. You got Bernardeschi, you got Berardi, you got Immobile, Keane, Caputo. You got different players that can play different styles but can still play this, 4-3-3 that Mancini likes. The options are there. And even Lorenzo Pellegrini from Roma, he's another player that can step into the midfield if someone's not keeping up with par or someone comes up with an injury. He's been I like him at Roma as well. So that would be my 11. I don't know if you guys have anything a little different.
There's definitely things to discuss in that case. For sure.
We had an episode back in November. It was me, Gianni, and Adriano. We basically predicted who would make the squad. We didn't give a starting 11, but looking at what we said and what we wrote then, based on the guys I picked then, I do something similar to you. Obviously, Donnarumma, clear cut.
Yeah.
I like Florenzi on the right side. I think he's kind of had that rejuvenation, if you will.
There you go. PSG. Shout out Monica.
Defense, it's tough depending on injuries. If Chiellini's healthy, I say he starts. Healthy Chiellini is still one of the best defenders in the league for Italy. I say he starts. Maybe a Cherby or Bastoni next to him. That depends. I like Emerson on the left side as well. Midfield, have your take of Locatelli, Barella, Jorginho, Verratti. Jorginho wasn't called up this time. I don't know if he's injured or whatever.
Something went up, yeah.
And then up top, Insigne, Chiesa on the wings. Striker at, I still want to say Immobile just because he's such a natural goal scorer in the Serie A. He's gonna have to, unlock basically for the Azzurri eventually. But if he's not playing well, put Belotti. If and then maybe Keane comes on as a last-minute sub, in certain games. Again, all this is dependent on injuries and whatnot. Knock on wood. Nobody, everybody's healthy up to this point, so it'll be interesting to see what the 11 is in these upcoming qualifiers and then in June.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the big thing to focus on, guys. I think let alone injuries, we still have COVID. Who knows by then what's going to be, right? These are still factors that we have to, take into consideration, or else, we can sit down here, we can be on this podcast, and or on Twitter or wherever, or group chats, and talk about starting 11s or who's called up and who's not. But if players are not healthy, people are with COVID, it's going to be tough. But again, for me, I think, like the guy said, and I think everybody can agree on, Gigio Donnarumma in goal. Now for the defense, I think he's going to be playing Florenzi. I don't think that he maybe merits it. Yes and no for me. I'm kind of on the fence about Florenzi. A while back, I was on the Di Lorenzo train because I think he brings something different. He has had his ups and downs on Napoli, so I mean, call it as you will. Calabria was another name I was going to mention. I think he was a lock almost for that right-hand side. It's unfortunate, his injury, and he's having surgery and all that. But I'm going to have to say Florenzi, because I don't know if Azzurri will be another name that he would pick, because he's exciting too. But I'm going to stick with Florenzi. In the back, me personally, the way I think we have to get rid of this old guard. Chiellini, Bonucci. I think it's way too long that they've been around, and not that it's been a bad thing. I just don't think that if we want to continue to progress, like you mentioned Bastoni, right? I think he's a player that needs to get in there. I would like to see Bastoni and Acerbi, but I believe it probably will be either one of Bonucci or Chiellini if they're healthy, and one of Bastoni, Acerbi if one or the other one's not healthy or what have you.
I just can't get on the Acerbi train. I don't know why.
I'm a fan. I don't know. I'm a fan.
He's a fan of our podcast.
Yeah. One time he reached out and got our boy Sean his jersey. Shout out for that, and his baby boy Leone. But besides those things, he's a rock. I don't know. He is a rock in the back. Obviously Lazio plays different style as the Azzurri, so maybe call that as whatever you want to make out of that. But I think he merits a spot with the Azzurri.
Yeah.
If it's starting every game, I don't know.
I think he'll be there.
I think he'll be there exactly. On the left, I don't know. It's a toss-up between Emerson and Spinazzola. I think he can get a nod in there as well. The midfield three, because we know he's going to go 4-3-3. I'm going to go Barella, because I think he's an animal. He's fantastic. I'm going to probably say Verratti because he's one of the more experienced players, and I think when on, he's good. And I mean, I think Jorginho, but I wouldn't be surprised if Locatelli gets his call up, and really is another X factor and a really guy that can really produce in the midfield. And the front three for me, it's simple. It's Chiesa on the right, Immobile up top, and Insigne on the left. I think if they can string together some sort of chemistry, which so far it's been okay, I think we can go far with that trio. Yeah. And again, like Lucci mentioned, guys, we have Belotti off the bench, we have Keane, and if Immobile is not playing well, throw on Keane at striker, and make it Insigne, Keane, Chiesa. That brings pace, that brings creativity, that brings goal scoring. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That would be my ideal rotation of players in the starting 11.
By the way, I looked it up. Jorginho, he did get an injury. He did have a knock in a session with Chelsea, so that's why he didn't get called up. Yeah. We got a question from Pizza Calcio. They asked, who will the Azzurri play in the final, and what will the starting 11 be in that game? So we answered the second part.
They're optimistic as hell, huh, guys. Like, we're going to the final. I love that enthusiasm.
I hope that doesn't jinx us early already.
I'm knocking on wood right now. I don't know what you're doing. I'm
I'd probably say France is probably the strongest team. No.
Well, first off, Lucci. Before we dive into if we're going to be in the final, do you honestly think that this Azzurri team can reach the final, or is that just a hope for all us Azzurri fans wanting a final rather than being able to actually get there? What do you make of that conversation?
I think it's more of a hope than it is realistic. This team, like we know, it's still very young. Chiesa, Barella, Locatelli, even mentioning Bastoni, Donnarumma, they're all in their early 20s, right? These are still kids. Keane even. But, the talent's there. You just hopefully, you get the chemistry at the right time and we're able to score goals. If we can get, whatever front line we decide to go with, to score goals, we have a decent chance to go deep. And the only teams I feel that are probably stronger than Italy would be Germany and France. I think, other teams are beatable. I saw people saying there was pictures of Ronaldo at Portugal training today, whatever. Yeah, they got some decent players, but their back line still has Pepe and Jose Font in it. Like, you guys are kidding me. So, there's every team has good players. Every team has a little bit of depth in certain areas, but I think, Italy is one of the younger teams, lots to prove. Of course, they might make some mistakes along the way. That's probably a given. But if they can string, the chemistry together and show, what they're capable of, they can definitely surprise some teams. And a finals would be tough. It would surprise me a little bit, but then again, at the same time, it wouldn't be out of the question, I'll say. It's tough. Fair. It's tough to say.
Yeah, Nick, do you feel similar to that, or?
I mean, I don't want to bet against the Azzurri, right? It's hard.
It's tough. It's
tough.
The
thing with these tournaments, it's one game. It's one game. You have a bad game and you're done. You look at the Italy team in 2016. Nobody expected them to get as far. I know they only went to the quarterfinals, but they were so close to the semifinals. And that they were on the hard side of the bracket. If they were on the easy side of the bracket, they easily could have gone to the finals. So. And I think with this tournament too is, you focus on your group stage first, and then it all depends on
the draw,
who finishes first, who finishes second, who finishes third, what side of the bracket they're on. I was just quickly looking at the brackets. If Italy finishes first, and I was just looking, if Netherlands finishes first in their group, they're going to be on opposite sides. So. If I'm going to put money right now, I'm going to say Italy-Netherlands final, because I think Netherlands is another good team. They haven't been in an international tournament in a while now. I think since 2016. Since 2014. They're a good young team. But for Italy, they have to win the group. Anything else for me, even if they finish second, I think I personally say that's a failure because all three games are in Rome. All three games are in Rome against Wales, Switzerland, and Turkey. These are three beatable teams. They're better than each team. You're at home. You need to win the group. It's as simple as that.
There's no excuses for you.
I want them to. We'll see once the bracket gets made.
Still a little concerned of the group, though, to be honest. I think...
of course, yeah.
Italy always starts slow in these tournaments, and then they kind of find their way, in the knockouts. So, the first game will definitely be a struggle against, I believe it's Turkey, right?
Yeah, June 11th.
Yeah. So, Turkey will play them tough. But, again, like you said, those are games you just got to find a way to win. And hopefully they pick up the momentum, going forward.
I agree. And I think, again, there's no taking any team lightly, right? Because like Nick mentioned, you screw up once, you might not have a second chance to really recoup. Right. And, it's again, and I think, and I'm a big believer in any of these international tournaments, if it's World Cup, if it's Euro Cup, if it, whatever, yes. Okay, fine. Like, your matchups are one thing, but, sometimes the stars align. Sometimes there is a bit of luck that comes involved with tournaments like this. Obviously this is a particular year and a particular setting and particular everything. But again, I think, if there's one thing for this Italy squad, and I'm assuming everybody saw this video because Nick sent it to me, and I was shaking. It was amazing. I can't wait for us to illegally try to get that fucking stream. I don't know, but if anybody didn't see that amp up video of Rai Uno that's going to be having a little docu-series with the Azzurri and their climb from basically the darkness that we saw in 2018 to where they are now. I don't know why fans shouldn't be pumped for this. I can't see a reason why. A and B, from what I got out of that small clip and what we've been even saying amongst ourselves, is that and Lucci mentioned it tonight, Italy has a lot to prove, right? They have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. I remember Johnny has mentioned that time and time again, and they were at the bottom of the barrel, right, in 2018, not making the World Cup. Embarrassing for our nation of our stature. So I mean, this tournament 2020 this summer and next year's World Cup, they're coming in hungry, I think, and I think they're coming in with kind of like a swagger to them that they have to prove something, and now is the time. Lucci mentioned the young squad, but I think these players are going to be able to kind of be able to come together and do it. I hope so. But
before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to add regarding the group stage for the Euros. For Group A, there's 2 host cities, Baku and Rome. Italy plays all their games in Rome. Yep. All 3 other teams switch. So Italy has, I think that's a major advantage because Baku to Rome is 4,000 kilometers, an 8-hour flight. So, for Turkey on the first game, Turkey, they'll be fine. They'll be in Rome. Switzerland, they're going to go from a game. I know they're professionals. They're used to this traveling, but there's travel involved. Italy stays put. I don't know if there's a time difference, to be honest. It might be 1 hour to Azerbaijan. I don't know. Same thing with Wales on last match day. They have 4 days. They have 4 days between games, and they have to travel 8 hours. So I think that's a huge advantage for Italy. So.
I agree.
You said, it's going to be interesting to see. Andrew, you got a question?
What are we mentioning this question? So our boy Johnny couldn't be here tonight. Our gracious co-host Johnny, again, like I said, couldn't be here tonight. He poses an interesting question directed to our gracious guest Daniel Lucci tonight, and he asks, "How do I become so good looking like Lucci? Do I have to support Juve?" Now. Ja, I don't know, but if you're listening to this when you get a chance, I don't know how you can handle Napoli, Juve, and Roma. That's a tall task. But I mean, I don't know if Lucci has anything to add to that.
I don't even know how to answer that. Maybe he just needs a Juve Chiesa jersey and then he'll fit right in. Maybe we got to get him one of those. Everyone
we were mentioning off air. We're talking about jerseys and. Maybe an Azzurri Chiesa jersey, so he doesn't have to go full on Juve.
I think he'll like that. I think he'll like that.
I don't see how he couldn't. That'd be great. Yeah. He'd look like a stud in that.
We'll have to work something out then, I think. What else?
There was one non-Italy related question. I don't know if you wanted to go with that or you.
I kind of did. Like I know it doesn't really touch.
Oh, I have a question. I have a question.
Go on. Yeah, go.
We saw De Rossi join the staff as an assistant coach.
How could we forget?
And what's awesome? That 2006 team, a lot of the players have become coaches. We saw that this weekend, right? Pirlo versus Inzaghi. There's Gattuso. Nesta just got fired in Frosinone. Who's replacing him? Fabio
Grosso.
Oddo's coaching. Buffon's still playing, and now De Rossi's the assistant coach with Italy. Having that presence with the team, a guy who won the World Cup, a guy who was just playing with them a couple years ago. How do you think that's going to affect the players?
Oh, that's huge, and not only because he was there, but he was there in 2006 as I think he was 22 or 23, so he was one of these young guys. He'll fit in. There was a lot of pressure for him. Yes, he picked up that red card against the States, but he definitely grew into the tournament. He became, he didn't play every game, but he became important. He played in some. He scored
the penalty in the final, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He blasted it with confidence. Takes a lot of balls.
For a young kid, that's exactly. Impressive. And you knew he was one of the highest talented players for Roma coming up and no one maybe really knew what he was, someone so young was what he was capable of doing at that, on the international level, but he really showed what he could do. And I think that along with the Sweden incident, when things didn't go well, he was there, he was part of that. So he has experience on both ends, and that could really help some of these younger players, try to, get down and fight, right? And this is the thing, like, he's a brand new coach, and he's going to learn from Mancini. He's going to learn from, some of the great talents of, Italy and this and that. And, it's unfortunate that, like, someone like Pirlo couldn't have done the same thing, like them learning the right way, starting fresh, getting these newer coaches in, and you don't put as much pressure on them. So I think this is a great move for not only Italy, but for De Rossi as well.
No, I saw a joke. I saw a joke online. De Rossi's going to finally be able to put Insigne into the game.
Yeah, I saw that too. It was amazing. But just to bounce off of what Lucci said, I agree, and I think it all starts here. We mentioned before the mentality, right, guys? Like this, that's like when Lucci just mentioned. He's been there with the good. He's been there with the bad. When we speak about De Rossi, right? And I think he's a player that's mentally strong, and I think again, I don't know how much of an impact, how much of a role he'll actually have amongst everything. He's part of Mancini's staff. But if there's one thing that, again, with our veteran players, De Rossi can be another one of those veteran player coaches, right? That can really be in there in the locker room. At the training ground, at Coverciano, whatever, just being present. And I think he can be a piece to the puzzle for this revenge story that it seems that Italy is kind of on right now, from what we mentioned before. So I think it's exciting to see De Rossi back with the Azzurri. I think, it didn't end the way he probably would have ever wanted it to end, his career with the national team. So, again, I think I don't think there's any bad with this happening. Me personally, I know I saw some like, I'm not a big fan of this move kind of thing or this and that. Like, again, everybody is entitled to their opinion, and I don't see it on my end. Maybe I'm just too open-eyed that seeing De Rossi back. I don't know, but I think it's kind of like low risk, high reward kind of thing when you bring in De Rossi. Like,
I don't see any risk involved. Like, it's an assistant coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's on the staff. He's on the staff. Yeah. He's not making the calls. He's not making, like, he's just there, right? And just to have that presence, again, if it's in the locker room, on the bench, just to really get, that kick in the ass that some of these players might need during this tournament or these tournaments coming up. Again, I don't see the issue in it. And
there's no one more scary than De Rossi too when he's angry. So
exactly,
the boys a little kick in the ass.
And he'll slide tackle him probably in them too at Coverciano too. He has the tattoo on the back of his calf, right? So we know what he's all about, and it's always all ball for him. So another player in the past that, again, Azzurri legend, Serie A legend, Gennaro Gattuso. And I kind of wanted to bring up this question earlier. It kind of got now shifted to the end of the show here. We are talking to Azzurri, but we'll still bring it up. It is by the Calcio boys. Shout out to them. Great, thank you for all the support that they give us. They asked what should be done with Gattuso at the end of the season. And again, Lucci, I know this is not Juve related or Azzurri related. It is Napoli related, but I think it is a good question to ask because Gattuso will forever be in our hearts for an Azzurri legend, and I think it kind of ties in that way. What do you make of him? After this season or into the future, does he deserve better? Does he deserve to stay again with, another year with Napoli? What do you make of his situation right now?
Yeah, I think him, for his situation, and I guess with Napoli's, and I spoke with Joe Fischetti about this, throughout the year, really, and he's had a tough go. There's no doubt about that. But look, that Napoli team has been one of the hardest hit teams with injuries and COVID and everything, along with the likes of Juve and Milan and whatever. But, when he has a full squad, they don't look half bad. And I've said this to Joe as well. Like, if you let him go, whatever, if that's what De Laurentiis decides to do, what better options do you have out there that are gonna bring gonna bring you better results for what you have? I don't really see Allegri going there, but that's possible. You want to bring Maurizio Sarri back to Napoli, maybe, but does that really guarantee your old results from before? It's a very different team now. The Gattuso thing, if he does decide to leave or they do decide to part ways, I'm sure he'll find another gig somewhere else. He's been getting better, as he gains more experience. And that's what happens with these young coaches. They're going through these things as, the first time as a manager. It's a little different when you're dealing with it as a player. And, I don't mind him as a coach. He's shown a little bit of, growing pains but he's learning from that. And that's to be expected. So, Napoli, like Juve, like Inter, like Milan, it's a tough place to coach, tough place to play. Everyone wants to win. So you understand it from both sides. But I think, he hasn't done a terrible job. They're still fighting for top 4, top 5. They're close. And who knows how this, still lots of games left. Like anything can happen.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you mentioned that, and because if I can speak for myself, I'm always going to root for Gattuso. He's a Milan legend, he's an Azzurri legend, so for me, he's like my boy. But I think, like when he was at Milan, and I've mentioned this before, and I've jumped on to the chat room when the Raf and Raf show is on, but with our friends over there, Rafa Rispo and Ralph Bizzarro, but. The Gattuso's been one of these managers that he's been able to do. Again, he has his faults, and I don't want to say he doesn't have his faults. He's been able to do the best with the cards he's been dealt in the situations that he's had at Milan and now at Napoli. Now, is that going to aggravate the fans because they want to see better results? Of course, that's a given, And now with Pirlo too, now making that jump with Juve, that's another name, right? Obviously, they have their faults, but again, they're still young coaches. I think there's still room to grow. They're not perfect. Yes, they were great players. Doesn't mean you're going to be a great coach, right? It takes time for them to develop. But again, we hope for the best for our legends and our icons in 2006. We always hope nothing but the best for them. And I think that's all we have for you, Lucci, tonight. So just to before we wrap up, must wins. Lucci mentioned must wins this coming games for the qualifiers for Italy between the 3 teams this week coming up. And I think they need to make a statement, and I think we all can agree on that. So again, Lucci, from the 3 of us, I know Johnny's not here tonight. From the 3 of us, again, like always, Bello, we appreciate you taking the time out of your night. We can't thank you enough for talking Juve, for talking Calcio, for talking Azzurri. Where can we find you and all your great work that you do?
You can find me at Twitter, Daniel Lucci. I write sporadically, whenever I get a chance. Sometimes it's tough to write about Juve when, things aren't going so well. So you can only write so many good things, bad things. But, hopefully now with the, qualifying and Euro Cup coming, we'll get some Azzurri articles out. But, send me a follow, talk. Thanks again for having me, guys. It's always a blast. And, Forza Azzurri.
Beautiful. And
after this talk, I can't wait for the Euros now, or even just for the games coming up.
Bro, I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing.
The U21s, I like watching them. Everything. Tomorrow, Nick, 1 p.m. I'm going to be chanting the Fratelli d'Italia at the start of the U21 match.
It's crazy. Like with this Azzurri, when I talk to Nick off air and stuff, we're buzzing. We can't wait for the summer. Hopefully things, fingers crossed, are a bit better here in Montreal and Toronto and just all over the world, so we can come together as a nation and as a country and come together and cheer the Azzurri. But again, thank you so much for Daniel, and follow him on all his platforms where you can find us guys. Every week we say it, at the Calcio Guys on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Clubhouse. If anybody's on Clubhouse, we'll definitely come and chat with us. And catch our podcast on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Share it, subscribe, like, share, and we'll be back next week to talk a lot more Calcio.
Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
The Calcio Guys is a weekly podcast by Adriano Donardo, Gianni Della Colli, and myself, Nicholas Di Giovanni. We want to bring Calcio back to its roots in our communities and share stories from around the world about why we're passionate about the beautiful game. You can listen to us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts, including Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Mixcloud. Give us your opinion on social media at The Calcio Guys on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The outro song is The Last Ones by Jazar.